But according to Shawn, an incident occurred at Wanya's house. While Mike's still dealing with back issues, he will often no call, no show. He wouldn't answer the door for Nate. At Wanya's house, a physical fight occurred between Shawn and Michael, which led Mike into body slamming Shawn on Wanya's table. Today, I want to do a video on the R&B group Boyz II Men. Throughout the 90s, the group captivated audience with their ballads and smooth harmonies, but there is more to their story than their success. So without further ado, this is the story of Boyz II Men. Before we begin, I ask you to do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 1,000, so your help is needed. And now to our feature presentation. The roots of Boyz II Men began at Philadelphia's High School of the Creative and Performing Arts. Founding members were named Nathan Morris and Mark Nelson. Their group had several members coming and going due to graduation, but the guys kept recruiting new members. One member was a freshman named Wanya Morris. The other members were named Shawn Stockman and Michael McCary. They would spend their school days practicing in the bathroom because it was their favorite place to practice their harmonies. Their original name was Unique Attraction and had have a knack to perform New Edition songs. One of the songs, Boyz II Men, became their favorite song and thus changing their name to Boyz II Men. Now settled, the boys started to plot on getting discovered. Their plan was to run into Philly rapper The Fresh Prince and perform for him. However, they were unable to reach him. Their big break came in 1989. After New Edition got done with their concert, the boys snuck backstage and reached Michael Bivins. Once they caught Mike, they sung Can You Stand the Rain. Bivins was impressed and gave them a business card to meet him in LA. They traveled to LA to meet Bivins and help him get signed. It should be noted that Michael Bivins has since started his own label, Biv 10 Records, and to no surprise, Boyz II Men was already on the roster. It is also noted that MCA is the label New Edition was on, but the CEO, Gerald Busby, left MCA for Motown and he wanted Boyz II Men to sign there as distribution. But as soon as they started working on their debut album, member Mark Nelson left. The reason for his departure was personality differences. He would record a solo album in 1991 called I Want You that went gold, and later that decade he would join As Yet. The boys did not replace him, instead they chose to move on as a quartet. On April 1991, Boyz II Men released their debut album Cooleyhighharmony. For their first single, Motownphilly, is a homage to their biggest influences, Motown and their hometown, Philadelphia. And in the video, I didn't know this at the time, but Questlove, the drummer from The Roots and the producer of one of the greatest documentaries of all time, made a cameo. But anyway, Motownphilly performed very well, peaking at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 4 on the R&B charts. Other songs included It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday, which came from the movie Cooley High, and Please Don't Go. Coming off of the success of Cooleyhighharmony, Boyz II Men hit the road with MC Hammer. While in a stop in Chicago, tragedy struck. Their manager, Roderick Khalil Roundtree, was shot and killed in a robbery gone wrong at a hotel. 3 men approached Roundtree and his assistant, Qadri El-Amin, in an elevator out of mistaken identity. A struggle occurred which led Roundtree and El-Amin shot, with Roundtree dying. On their follow-up project, they did a tribute to Khalil. And it's worth noting that his son, Khalil Roundtree, is a UCF fighter. Cooleyhighharmony itself was doing well, but something was about to change and boost Boyz II Men's success. They were asked to record a song for the Boomerang soundtrack. With L.A. Reid, Babyface, and Daryl Simmons producing and writing, they came up with the song End of the Road. The song shot up to number 1 on both the R&B and the pop charts and set a then record for the longest running #1 song at 13 weeks, broken the next year by Whitney Houston. End of the Road today is considered one of the best boy band songs of all time and a go-to breakup song. Initially, End of the Road was not included on Cooleyhighharmony, but when the album was reissued, 2 versions of End of the Road was included. The first track was a Spanish version, and the final track, track 16, was the real version. They released one more single, In the Still of the Night, which was a cover of the Fred Paris and the Satin song. They appeared in the Jacksons miniseries performing the song. Thanks to End of the Road and the reissue, the album Cooleyhighharmony was certified 9 times platinum. The project also resulted in 3 Grammy wins, 2 of them courtesy of End of the Road. Their next project was met with high expectations. Most who made Cooleyhighharmony a massive success returned, but one producer was having issues. Dallas Austin felt like they became difficult to work with and became egotistical, for lack of a better word.
They say, well, Gerald Busby calls me and says, well, the guys want to know if they can produce this album with you. I said, no way, not interested. They do the first one with me, why should they do this one with me? You know, like, won't they just work on some other people's stuff? But I think for their project, they should always have the best people working on it. So he said, well, the guys really want to produce. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll do a song or 2 with them, and Tim and Bob, my producers, can do the rest with them. If they want to produce with somebody, let them produce with Tim and Bob. You know, and so Gerald Busby was like, okay, anything to get you back on this, because you got to repeat this project. You can't not be a part of the project, you know, because when you're in a project, you don't just produce it and write it. Also, you know, you're giving your opinions and everything else to help it come together. And so that's how we ended up doing it. I did Thank You. I did some of Vibing with them. And even by the time we got through with Thank You, I was like ready to shoot everybody. During the same sessions, Babyface comes, right? And Joe Busby says, hey, Babyface is coming to the studio today. He wants to sing you guys another song. You know, why we got to work with Babyface? Well, why? Because you just had a big hit with End of the Road. So Face comes to the studio. He opens the laptop up. All of us are sitting around and he starts singing I'll Make Love to You. He sings the whole song, right? He has the instrumental, but he's singing the whole song to us, right? After they finish, they go, Boyz II Men looks at him and goes, see, that's what we talking about. That's what we do. We don't need you. This is horrible. I'm like, uh-oh. So then Gerald Busby calls me back. He said, Dallas, how did it go with Babyface? I said, they just told him they don't need him, that they write the same kind of songs and that song is horrible. He says, what? Put me on the speakerphone. Guys, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, do the song, roll your sleeves up, go to work right now, click. And that song ended up being bigger than End of the Road.
Regardless, 2 was released on August 1994. The lead single was I'll Make Love to You. Produced by Babyface, the song went to #1 and stayed there for 14 weeks, which tied Whitney Houston for the record at the time. I'll make love to you like you want me to. The next single was another ballad called On Bended Knee, and it replaced I'll Make Love to You at #1. At the time, only the Beatles achieved that feat. 2 more singles were released. Thank You, the song Dallas Austin had a hard time producing for Boyz II Men, and Water Runs Dry, which is another Babyface produced track, as the album too went 12 times platinum, giving it a diamond certification. Let's go wait till the water runs dry. In 1995, Wanya Morris got the opportunity to record a duet with teenage R&B singer Brandy Norwood called Brokenhearted, with the song peaking at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100. Due to Brandy's infatuation over Wanya, this led to a romantic relationship, despite a 6-year age difference. But 1 month prior to Brandy's 19th birthday, he called off the relationship as his eyes wandered to Freak Like Me singer Adina Howard. This led to a feud/love triangle amongst each other, and what made this worse was that both Adina and Brandy were label mates in Atlantic. Knowing this, A&R Sylvia Rhone told Adina to focus on her career and not the relationship with Wanya. Long story short, Brandy's career continued to flourish, but as for Adina Howard, she said that this was the moment that stunted her career growth. Around the same time, Nathan got the opportunity to record a solo song for the movie Shazam called Wishes. Back with Boyz II Men, they got the opportunity to sing background for Michael Jackson's History project, but behind the scenes they were struggling with their label Motown. Motown released a remix compilation of the boys' work from the first 2 albums without consolation from the men. As a result of this, the boys sought their own distribution with Sony. They'll have more drama with their label later on, but for now they teamed up with Mariah Carey to record the smash hit known as One Sweet Day. The song speaks about the death of a loved one and how the protagonist took their presence for granted and misses them, and this was inspired by the AIDS epidemic. In 1996, the song was a massive success, peaking at number 1 and spent 16 weeks at the top. This was a record until Lil Nas X's Old Town Road lasted 19 weeks. The pair couldn't film a proper video due to their busy schedules, so they just filmed themselves recording the song. Despite the song's massive success, it was snubbed by the Grammys, not winning a single award. With the success of One Sweet Day and 2, the boys started to work on their 3rd album. With the massive success of their first 2 albums, they knew that this album had to be big. Their 3rd album, Evolution, was released on September 1997, and there was a ton of buzz for their lead single, 4 Seasons of Loneliness, so much that it debuted at the number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. It eventually reached the number 1 spot the next week. Shortly after this, they released their next single, A Song for Mama, which was used as the theme for the film Soul Food. Thanks to the film, A Song for Mama, which is another Babyface produced tune, reached number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. Mama, mama. As for the album, Evolution went double platinum, which is good, but a far cry from what the first 2 albums brought to the table. Their final 2 singles, Can't Let Her Go and Doing Just Fine, failed to meet expectations. This was because the boys were having more issues with their label. Motown was having a president change and thus not getting proper promotion for their last 2 singles. Also around the same time, Motown got bought out by Universal. Then, while on their world tour, Wanya had to pull out when he developed a vein pulp on his vocal cords, and Mike started to struggle with the choreography. More on that later. Their next 2 albums, Nathan, Michael, Shawn, Wanya, which was released in 2000, and Full Circle, which was released in 2002, both flopped. The latter had a song and video called Color of Love, was met with a massive budget with the boys filming in Japan, India, Ghana, and Puerto Rico. The song of course flopped. Throughout Boyz II Men, member Michael McCary was often seen with a cane as he struggled with back problems. During the early 2000s, his struggles would get worse as he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis or MS, and he had to miss shows. In 2003, he was unable to control MS and left Boyz II Men. But according to Shawn, an incident occurred at Wanya's house. While Mike's still dealing with back issues, he will often no call, no show. He wouldn't answer the door for Nate. At Wanya's house, a physical fight occurred between Shawn and Michael, which led Mike into body slamming Shawn on Wanya's table.
One incident in particular, after not answering us for weeks.
Damn, that's a long time.
Yeah. There was, exactly.
Yeah.
He shows up at Wanya's house, just pops up. At that time, I lived right around from a corner from Wanya. So Juan was like, yo, Mike's here, dude. I was like, all right, I'll be right there. We were planning on going to Japan in about a few weeks. Big payday.
International money.
Right. He heard about it, asked, well, when are we going to Japan?
Bruh.
After weeks of not being seen, of not showing up at one show that we had in Romania, where the limo driver came to the airport when we were there that morning and said, they just waved the car off. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, that's
so that was just. So he was like, "When are we going to Japan?" And I told him straight out, I was like, "No, we ain't going nowhere.
Oh wow.
Was
We
that
are
hard
not
for you
going to
say
Japan?"
that to your brother.
Yeah,
though?
yeah, because I love. Again, I loved Mike, but I had it.
You're frustrated.
So it was like, dude, you can't keep doing that to us.
Oh man.
So to make a long story short, we got into it. We fight.
like actual fight.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Okay.
Like, you know,
moving furniture.
I mean, shoot, he slammed me on a table, on Wanya's table.
Well, his back wasn't hurting that day.
Yeah. No, it wasn't hurting that day. So he slammed me on the table.
Oh.
I'm trying to block punches, the whole nine. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Mike a big guy, so I was
Yeah.
just trying to protect my face.
He's a base voice.
And after I got up, I was like, dude, that's it.
Damn.
You're done.
Wow.
When was the last time you talked to Mike?
It's been years.
After Mike left and/or removed from the group, he struggled with depression. In 2016, it's been a mystery about his whereabouts and what happened to him until he appeared on Ayana Fix My Life. There he came out about MS. He did briefly reunite with Boyz II Men in 2012 when they were inducted into the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but today he still harbors resentment against his former group mates. After Michael's departure, the boys asked the fans if they want to replace him. The fan almost unanimously said no and advised them to move on as a trio, which they did, with Nathan adjusting to the bass lines on occasion. Boyz II Men released their first two projects without Mike, called Throwbacks Volume 1, which was released in 2004, and Remedy, which was released in 2006. In 2007, they released their critically acclaimed album, Motown, A Journey Through Hitsville, which is a cover album of some of the greatest hits Motown has ever produced. The album saw them nominated for 2 Grammys, but the members found time to explore other ventures. In 2016, Wanya competed on Dancing with the Stars and finished 4th place. Wanya's sons formed a tribute band called One More, and they competed on the Nickelodeon show America's Most Musical Family, winning that show. Nathan discovered his own passion in flipping homes. In 2018, he became the host of Hit Properties on HGTV. He temporarily left the group in 2020 through 2021 because of this and not wanting to perform in the midst of a pandemic. He since rejoined. Shawn released 2 solo projects, Shawn in 2018 and Ford in 2020. Boyz II Men still tours to this day and is labeled as the inspiration for many boy bands. They also go to show you that you don't need all the dance tunes to captivate an audience, as their ballads can do that for them. And this concludes the story of Boyz II Men. Tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.